Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning. I am Katie Halper.
And I'm Aaron Maté. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Good. I have a surprise for everyone.
Wow. Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oops.
And so is the audience. The audience is ready too.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Are you guys ready? You're there, right?
We're here, yeah.
Okay. Here it goes. Ready?
Bodhi.
This is Bodhi for anyone who hasn't met her. She's my cute little puchki. She's my little Lhasa Apso. Say hi, Bodhi.
Hi, Bodhi.
Hi. Hi.
Bodhi's excited for Monday morning.
She is excited for Monday morning. And you see how blasé she is? That's her opinion of the January 6th hearings.
She's not fired up by January 6th.
She's not fired up, yeah.
Well, maybe we can change Bodhi's mind today.
Yeah, maybe we can.
Because we got to January 6th.
We got a lot, yeah. So everyone like the stream. If you don't like it, it's one thing to not like the stream when we're hosting. But when we got Bodhi making an appearance, it's actually criminal.
It's animal cruelty.
It's animal cruelty. It's animal abuse. Yeah. Look at her face. And yeah, she is a little Ewok. For those of you who pointed out, she looks exactly like an Ewok. She had a little behind the scenes, by the way. Oh, and also make sure. Oh my God, you're so cute. Make sure you like the stream, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the stream. The powers that be, the corporate overlords, the tech overlords, sometimes unsubscribe people. Really not okay. And make sure that you make sure that you come to our call-in right after this. We're doing a call-in where you get to do where we take your questions and your comments. So make sure you do that. And is there anything else we want to make sure to tell people to do to be useful idiot citizens?
Usefulidiots.substack.com.
Yes,
bonus
of course.
Content.
Now, because I believe in democracy and freedom, I'm going to open the door to let Bodhi out. Hold on.
And I'll just prep people and assure them that, unlike last week, the Chuckster is back. Meet the Press was not preempted for tennis, so we have lots of Chuck Todd content today. So don't worry about that. And in fact, speaking of the Chuckster, let's hit it.
Okay. By the way, Bodhi had a fur ball. We'll get into that another time, but luckily she coughed it up. Sometimes they need surgery for that. Did you know that? I
did not know that. No.
Yeah.
No.
So, yeah. Anyway, look at this. Look, we got a super chat. Thank you so much. Baba Booey from
Good Sunday
Mikey
morning.
Kingston.
Never before in this country's history.
So Wilson is getting us. He's pushing us forward. Good for Wilson. Is there an echo, by the way? Someone was saying there's an echo. Let us know if there's an echo. And also, Aaron, let's make sure to tweet this out.
Yes.
All right.
Doing now.
Yeah. So this is a very, we invite you behind the scenes. We break down that fourth wall. So you're welcome, everyone. All right. Let me tweet this out now. I'm going to say, and we're live. Oops.
Good Sunday morning. Never before in this country's history have we witnessed a president accused of a criminal conspiracy to take down the democracy. But that's exactly what we saw at Thursday's January 6th opening hearing, where former President Trump was placed at the center of the effort to both overturn the election and inspire the riot at the Capitol. We even heard of testimony that Mr. Trump suggested rioters were right to demand Vice President Pence be hanged.
Minor quibble here, but he says that never before have we seen our president accused of a criminal conspiracy to bring down our democracy.
Yeah.
Wasn't that kind of what Russiagate was? I mean, Trump was accused of a criminal conspiracy with Russia to bring down our democracy.
They're kind of
forgetting about that.
Right.
They're kind of forgetting, but that's kind of some Russiagate erasure.
Yeah, that's Russiagate erasure. How could they do that?
Which is weird because that's all they talked about for 4 years when it was happening.
Right.
So,
but why are they silencing Russiagate?
It's crazy.
That's crazy. Wow.
Simply for certifying the election results.
Okay.
The committee has
also,
begun to show its
wait,
evidence.
1 second. I think I have to say, I'm not making light of the fact at all that there were calls to hang Pence, but isn't it a little bit tacky to have a noose like hanging there? I know that they're trying to. It's a reference to the calls for hanging Pence, but it's a little bit tacky. Like, do you think their producers are like, then I want to see the Capitol behind Chuck and a noose?
That's exactly what they're doing. I mean,
I guess that is exactly what they did.
And look, the idea also that these people, these middle-aged MAGA heads, a lot of people with health issues, we're going to get Mike Pence and hang him at the Capitol. It's pretty far-fetched. I don't think there's any real possibility of that ever happening. Right. I don't think that's actually what the noose was for. I don't think anyone with that really wanted to hang Mike Pence. Some people chanted that, I know, but I don't think that was like this master plan among the crowd to hang Mike Pence. And
we know that apparently Trump was like, maybe they have the right idea. He deserves it. That's one of the revelations from January 6th. All right, let's keep going. And notice Chuck's haircut. Maybe all those preemptions gave him the time to get a haircut.
Yep.
Certifying the election results. The committee has begun to show its evidence. But does the country have the will or the ability to hold Donald Trump accountable in the wake of all this evidence? If this were happening in another country.
Does the country also have the interest in holding Donald Trump accountable, given that he already was impeached like 18 months ago, and given that there's already an investigation by the DOJ going on, and given that there's so many other problems right now at home? Maybe most of the country doesn't care about January 6th, which I guess we'll find out as these.
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah. And someone put in the comments, and this is true, it wasn't just that reference to the calls to hang him. There was actually a noose there and the scaffolding.
There was a noose there. Yeah. I'm just saying, I don't think that.
No, I know. I wasn't pushing back on you. I just didn't say that. I said it was a reference to the hanging him, but it was more than calls. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just doing my due diligence.
What would we think?
Thank you, Timothy
That
Scholar.
It's strong enough to preserve its democracy and rule of law, or subject to the rule of the mob? And what would the reaction be here to the prosecution of a former president who is the front runner for the Republican nomination in 2024? He may even be an active candidate when indicted. Shortly after January 6th, we asked, is this the end of something or the beginning? Keep that in mind as you watch the hearings. And remember that many who tried and failed to undermine democracy in 2020 are hard at work to succeed in 2024.
Yeah, I could have answered your question back then, Chuck. It's definitely the beginning of something. Nothing ever ends in U.S. politics when there is a controversy that can be used to not address systemic issues. So as long as you're not looking at class and militarism and even systemic racism, all the things that make this democracy really tick, then yes, it will go on forever. And that's why we're going to be hearing about January 6th for a very, very long time.
Although you'd be surprised because there is Russiagate erasure. So you think there'll be January 6th erasure when there's something else that replaces it?
Yeah, when they can move on to the next scandal to obsess over that doesn't really address the problems in this country, then absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, I just have to highlight this comment. Look, Katie and Aaron have literally bettered my life, and I'm not being facetious here. Thank you, LP. LP, I'm assuming that you like the stream. Because that seems like a very appropriate thing to do, yeah.
Was that a Joe Biden reference? You know how he always says, look, I'm being serious, I'm not being facetious here. Come on.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is. Was that a Biden reference? Facetious. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going.
President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack.
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup, a brazen attempt, as one rioter put it, to overthrow the government.
This, by the way, is like a mashup of a bunch of the...
In a primetime hearing, the House Select Committee introduced its case that the assault on the Capitol was the violent culmination of an attempted coup orchestrated by Donald Trump. The committee demonstrated that right-wing extremist groups, including the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, were called to Washington and influenced to violence by Trump himself.
We were invited by the President of the United States!
Trump asked us to come.
He personally asked for us to come to D.C. that day.
I know why I was there, and that's because he called me there and he laid out what is happening in our government.
Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards suffered a traumatic brain injury.
What I saw was just a war scene. I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
And Donald Trump was implicated by his own advisors and cabinet members, who presented evidence of Trump's calculated effort to overturn the 2020 election results.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bull.
And even by his daughter.
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
More of Mr. Trump's former advisors will testify in the weeks to come, including several expected to speak to his fury at his own Vice President, Mike Pence.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts.
Aware of the rioters' chance to hang Mike Pence, the president responded with this sentiment, quote, "Maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it."
On Friday, Trump claimed, "I never said or even thought of saying hang Mike Pence." And he added, Ivanka had long since checked out. The question now, will our...
Sorry, I just want to read those full tweets because they just read parts of them. I never said or even thought of saying hang Mike Pence. This is either a made-up story by somebody looking to become a star or fake news.
And he added, Ivanka had long since checked.
Okay, checked out. So he says, Ivanka Trump was not involved in looking at or studying election results. She had long since checked out and was, in my opinion, only trying to be respectful of Bill Barr and his position as Attorney General. He sucked.
Checked out. The question now, will our democracy hold former President Trump and his allies accountable? Already, the committee appears to be laying out grounds for a criminal referral of Trump to the Justice Department.
We are undertaking one of the largest investigations in our history to hold accountable everyone who was criminally responsible for the January 6th assault on our democracy. We will follow the facts wherever they lead.
Then there's the challenge of persuading a polarized public. According to a Washington Post poll conducted a little over a month ago, 52% of Americans believe Trump should be charged for his role in the attack. 42% do not.
Last night's hearing was a primetime dud. Nothing came out of it that we didn't know before, and it didn't change anybody's minds.
I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain.
Yeah, and look, that latter clip is part of my problem with this whole thing is it's a project that is making Liz Cheney look like a voice of conscience, right? Liz Cheney, daughter of one of the most evil people in U.S. politics who shares her father's foreign policy. She actually served in the Bush administration and helped carry out regime change operations around the world. So basically, she helped and she supports actual coups in foreign governments,
right?
Something she'll never be held accountable for.
Right.
And while I think she's right here, I mean, I think this was already settled with. Trump was impeached, and if he committed a crime, he'll be prosecuted for it. That's why the DOJ is conducting a sprawling investigation that's much even more expansive than the House is. This House impeachment thing, to me, is just basically a show so that Democrats can look as if they're doing something important instead of focusing on the issues that they're elected to address. And that's, similar to Russiagate, where it's like they're obsessed with this intra-elite squabble that makes that centers like this drama that's just, I think, divorced from most people's daily lives.
Yeah. Well said. And yeah, anything led by Liz Cheney is a little bit sus.
And she got such a prominent role in the first hearing that it made me think, like, is this like Liz Cheney's Democratic nomination kickoff party? Are they priming her to be like the next Democrat? Because, Biden's not going to run probably in 2024. So is Liz Cheney next?
Yeah. I wonder if he's going to run in 2024. I think he is. But we'll see.
We'll see.
If Aaron's right, I'll buy him a tuna sandwich.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. What would you like? What would you like?
We can talk about it if we get to it.
All right.
Yeah,
Offline. Yeah. All right. Cool.
By
the way, I just wanted. All right. So Firmware writes, I agree with Aaron, but the rise of fascism is very real, in my opinion, driven by 40 years of neoliberalism, which ultimately producing Trump January 6th.
It is, but it is. I just don't think this was anywhere close to an actual coup. An actual coup would involve having the military on your side, and there was none of that.
That was never going to happen.
Side was a bunch of middle-aged, elderly MAGA heads. A lot of people who have trouble moving around, who don't pose a threat to the government.
Yeah.
And what happened on January 6th, and again, we're not going to see this part being investigated by the committee, was I think a serious law enforcement failure.
Yes.
And these people have spent 4 years worshiping the CIA and the FBI because of Russiagate. So they're not going to be the ones to hold the FBI and the DHS accountable for a massive security failure.
Right. Also want to give people the chance. Make sure that if you don't already subscribe to usefulidiots.substack.com, make sure you do, because Aaron and Glenn Greenwald and I discussed this on the very good Substack only portion of the interview. So very good. And we talk about whether or not this was allowed to happen intentionally. I'm not going to tell you our answer, but anyway, make sure you tune in. Okay. Next clip. Oh, and by the way, thank you. Oh, I just missed it. We got a very generous super chat from someone for $20. And I just want to really thank them so much for that. I just missed their name. Okay. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
What would we say about another democracy going through this?
Well, I think that we would have a double standard in what we would say. Absolutely. But before we even get to 2024, there's also 2022 and the midterm elections. And I reported earlier this week that last month, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, in a closed-door meeting, she told her colleagues that January 6th is not necessarily on the ballot. People are not going to go to the polls on this. People are going to vote on inflation, on gas prices. But House Democrats in this January 6th Select Committee, she says, are stewards of democracy, and so they need to do this. But I also talked to a Democratic consultant last night who held focus groups after the first hearing, and they said that they were actually quite surprised at how much this resonated with the independents. The focus groups were with the independents, and how much they didn't know before the Thursday night hearing, and how much it really had an impact on them.
And
So this is people saying, this is kind of interesting because she's saying that this has a big impact on independence, which, okay, fair enough. But the part that really entertained me was the idea that Democrats, this wasn't going to get people to vote, according to Nancy Pelosi. This wasn't going to bring people to the polls. But Democrats are the stewards of democracy, so they had to do this. Saying that with a straight face is just hilarious. Let's just hear
quite surprised at how much this resonated. But House Democrats in this January 6th Select Committee, she says, are stewards of democracy, and so they need to do this. But I also...
Anyway, they're stewards of democracy, Aaron.
It's important in a democracy to have a democracy steward.
Yeah. And luckily we got a bunch of them with the Democrats. Yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted, that was more of a PSA so people knew what the point of House Democrats were. It's a democracy steward. So, all right, let's go to the next clip.
Maybe change that name from Democrats to democracy stewards.
Yeah, you're right. DS.
Yeah.
DSA, Democracy Stewards of America.
There we go. Sorry, TSA. Sorry, Socialist TSA. You're out.
Yeah.
We've just renamed the Democratic Party. They got to take that name.
Yeah. Okay. What do we got next?
Investigation into the riots on January 6th take place at a time of fresh challenges to America, testing lawmakers and straining the public's ability to pay attention to the past and the present. But in a healthy democracy, we must be able to do both. President Eisenhower warned that in managing national affairs, you can't let urgent matters eclipse important ones. The nation's leaders faced a test of that theory this week. In the urgent category is inflation.
One second. I just want to take a moment to give people this helpful tool. Have you heard of this metric, the urgent versus important metric, Aaron?
I have heard it said before, yeah.
Yeah. So this is something I knew about, not through politics, but through like time management. So there's a time management tool, and you're supposed to do a quadrant, and you do urgent, important, urgent, not important, not urgent, important, and not urgent, and not important. So guys, make sure you don't spend any time on not urgent or not important. And obviously, make sure that you spend time on the urgent and important. So I never knew that this like executive functioning tip came from the executive. Wow, I didn't even plan that. Executive functioning is a psychological thing. Anyway, all right, let's go back to this.
Up 8.6% compared to May a year ago, a 40-year high. In the important category, the House hearing about the attempted overthrow of the 2020 election. Eisenhower's advice was aimed at a truth. If you only attend to the urgent, important problems will become urgent soon enough, and you won't be prepared. For example, it was important to knock back Donald Trump's proof-free claim the election was stolen.
We will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won.
That lie became urgent soon enough.
I was slipping in people's blood. You know, I was catching people as they fell. It was carnage. It was chaos.
Officer Carolyn Edwards testified to what happens when you let important matters slip.
I ran towards the West Front and I tried to hold the line.
Edwards wasn't the only one to hold the line. President Trump's lawyer held the line by threatening to resign when Trump pressed the Justice Department to overturn the election. The entire leadership of the Justice Department held the line, too. Republican governors in Arizona and Georgia held the line. So did election officials in those states and others. Vice President Pence held the line. The reason these hearings are important enough to be considered at the same time we focus on the urgent matter of inflation is the hearings redefine what the line is. To hold the line is to put courage and action behind ideas that are true and enduring. We reaffirm the strength of those ideas in public moments like these hearings, reaffirming that in American democracy, the winner of an election is not determined by anger and force, but by the will of the people. That a presidency cannot be oriented entirely around the maintenance of power, as Donald Trump's was after the November election. That wishes are not facts. And finally, the hearings reaffirm that concern exclusively for things that are immediately before us risks distancing us from our contact with where the bright lines are, which means when the moment comes, those of us who lack Officer Edwards' courage will fail to hold the line because we won't know where to find it.
Okay, that entire segment was just basically that guy who was replacing Margaret. I can't remember his name, but John something, I believe. Sorry, I can't remember his name. It doesn't really matter. Basically, that's him being like, oh, what are we going to do about all the people pointing out the fact that this is not on people's minds, that people care about inflation and people care about bread and butter issues and not January 6th. Go with Eisenhower's important, urgent metric. Show how the important becomes urgent or the urgent becomes important. There you go. It's so transparent. It's such transparent propaganda to justify January 6th trials, hearings. And lines, I mean, it was like a hot mess.
Yeah, I mean, this is what being like a media personality entails. You're paid a lot of money to come up with creative ways to justify the fixations of the ruling class. I mean, that's pretty much what your job is. And so that's why he comes up with this long monologue about what is the line? Are we holding it? Who's holding the line? And urgent, yes. Okay, you're facing higher gas prices and your food prices have gone up. There's inflation.
That's
The economy is
important,
bad.
but it's right. The economy's
Yeah.
bad. Right.
But if we don't address something that happened 18 months ago, then that could become even worse. Then, I don't know, maybe the January 6th rioters are going to storm your house
Right.
and steal what food you have remaining
Right. Steal
left.
your bread and milk that you already spent so much money on. Yeah. John Dickerson is his name, by the way. Sorry about that.
Look, all this stuff, I mean,
didn't
it's
to erase him.
all this stuff is said to be done in defense of democracy. But I actually think overall it undermines democracy in any meaningful sense. Because what is democracy supposed to be? It's supposed to be citizens being involved in the decisions that impact their lives, having a say in it. But what do these obsessions really result around? They result around these quadrennial elections every 4 years, where the message is basically the only say you have in your democracy, the only participation you have is when you go and you vote for one member of a ruling class, faction, or another every single 4 years. And if that is interrupted by someone like Donald Trump, then that is the end of democracy. And that's how democracy is defined. It's only basically which lever you pull every 4 years and whether or not that is allowed to happen. But voting every 4 years is not really what democracy is. Democracy is being involved in your country's politics. But because there's no avenue for that, because both parties are essentially captured by the elite, they have to come up with these dramas like January 6th and then Russiagate before that to make people think as if voting and democracy is only about this one thing that happens every single 4 years.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I agree. That's it in a nutshell.
And again, what Trump did was horrible.
Right.
And he rightfully was impeached. But it's just like, does that mean that we need another 18 months later, another set of hearings obsessively focusing on this, especially when there's already an ongoing Department of Justice investigation that ultimately has to say on whether or not Trump gets charged?
Yeah.
I don't think it justifies it.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say something very controversial. I may have to walk this back, but I don't get how there was enough blood for her to be slipping in. I mean, maybe if lots of people had cuts, and I'm not even downplaying this because I know there was violence there. One person was killed, as we know, and some officers were attacked. That is very weird, that thing about all the officers dying, but not from violence there. One had a stroke, one committed suicide, which is awful, but it's very weird. Anyway.
Yeah, and the person who was killed, Ashley Babbitt, she was killed by police and she was unarmed.
Right.
And
there was
Trump
blood
supporter.
there. Right. She was there.
Absolutely.
And there was blood there, definitely. Yeah. But I don't think that's where she was, that officer.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. What's next? What do we got next? Next we got this is good. This is really short. This one. We just got to watch this little Watergate comparison clip.
In the room.
In the room.
What was it like?
Deadly serious. I mean, I thought back to what it must have been like during Watergate, during those hearings in 1973, because you realize this wasn't just about a crime. Watergate wasn't just about a crime. This wasn't just about an attack. It was about systemic shock to the American system. And you could feel it, see it in the testimony.
Systemic shock to the American system. This guy's trying to say very profound things. You'd think that he would come up with two different words for that clause. Systemic shock to the American system. You already said the systemic shock.
Systemic shock, more like systemic schlock.
Hello. Thank you. Very good. And then, no, that still wouldn't get rid of the problem. I was going to say, then you wouldn't have the repetition of systemic. You still would. So we have to replace that. So systemic schlock to the American schwitzing. There you go. We know what this audience wants. They want Yiddish translations of the news. And there you have it. Yeah. But it's so dramatic. You were in the room. In the room. Yeah, he was there. He also looks like a little gremlin or like one of the family members of the Addams family or the Munsters. I can't keep them all straight.
And again, I mean, maybe because I'm so immersed in Russiagate stuff, but I can't help but think that part of this is just kind of like revenge for the spectacular failure of Robert Mueller's investigation. Like, remember, like they had to basically drag Robert Mueller kicking and screaming to come testify. He really didn't want to. And they forced him to testify, and they were hyping it up. This was going to be the moment when finally the real Trump-Russia collusion is exposed. And Robert Mueller was horrible. He didn't even know the details of his own investigation. That was really embarrassing. So I kind of feel like ever since then, Adam Schiff, who's on this committee, Nancy Pelosi have been on this quest to, like, avenge the Mueller failure, the Mueller debacle. Right. And this finally, they've got their moment. Now, in their defense, Trump gave them a huge gift when he went insane and questioned the election and egged on a riot. But I feel like they're taking full advantage of that gift that they were given to the point where it's still going 18 months later.
Right. Someone points out he's Spunt's cousin, which is true. He does look like Spunt's cousin, the Fox News anchor. Kibitz away, Katie. Thank you very much for that. And the people have spoken, and he does indeed look like, several people point this out, Eddie Munster. Okay.
Day. All right. Well,
so we can go to the next clip. All right. Well,
I'm going to start with you. You covered the Hill for a very long time, covered a lot of hearings. What's the purpose of this hearing?
There are a couple of main goals here. First of all, John, I think it's important both for the present time and for posterity for Americans to have a common understanding of the set of facts of what led up to the day and what happened on that day. You just heard Congressman Kinzinger talk about the fact that there are some powerful politicians out there whose stories about what happened, what led up to it, are already changing. And we're heading into a midterm election. It's important to remind people of what actually happened. Beyond that, anytime this nation has ever had a major trauma, a major incident, Congress has been the body that takes the big 360 view of what happened so that we learn what can be gleaned from that experience, how we could do better next time. I mean, imagine after 9/11, if there had been no 9/11 commission to examine not just, what happened the day that those planes flew into buildings, but also what were the intelligence gaps that led to these different agencies not talking to one another. That led to the creation of the Department of National Intelligence.
Guys, imagine if we hadn't had a 9/11 commission, which created the Department of National Intelligence. I can't imagine living in a world without what is it?
Oh, DNY. Yeah.
Donnie.
Yes, thank God. Thank God we have yet one more arm of the national security state to soak up billions of dollars in taxpayer funding and help overthrow governments around the world. Thank God. Thank God we have that.
But isn't the Department of National Intelligence the one that went after Abby Martin?
Yes, the ODN, yes, the Department of National Intelligence, they were the ones that put out that report in January 2017 that kicked off Russiagate by accusing Russia of launching the sweeping campaign to destroy American democracy and install Trump. And they had an annex that had extensive media criticism of RT, including talking about Abby Martin's show, Breaking the Set, which aired back in like 2011. But for some reason...
Right, it was off the air by the time...
it was off the air by the time Trump was elected. For some reason, our esteemed intelligence professionals at the Office of National Intelligence felt compelled to do media criticism of Abby Martin's RT show in this report. So thank God we got that out of the 9/11.
Yeah, thank God we got that. Yeah, they are not only intelligence masters, they are masters of time travel. So they were able to connect the dots. But also it's kind of funny because it's famously, the 9/11 commission was famously ineffective, defanged, toothless, teethless, and nothing happened to anyone involved and nothing really changed. Yeah. So it's like the best example. Like this is the 9/11 commission is the best way to argue against the January 6th hearings.
Absolutely. And I love how she says that, like, whenever we have a national trauma, Congress steps in to give us that, like, the full picture. I mean, you could say that actually about the church committee hearings.
I was going to say church committee hearings, right?
But that's really the last time there's been, serious oversight of the government by Congress. when
And that was what, the
basically-
70s or the 80s?
That was in the 70s, yeah.
70s,
in the late
yeah.
70s, where Congress was basically, where CIA and other intelligence officials were caught spying and sabotaging Americans, peace activists,
Right.
The civil rights movement, all that stuff. But really, since then, it's been nothing but rubber stamping. So it's
Right.
funny that she thinks that Congress does anything but rubber stamping. And that's why, again, when she talks about, you know, the intelligence failures of 9/11 that were supposedly revealed by the 9/11 Commission, there's no scrutiny at all from this current commission of the intelligence failures before January 6th. Like why there was such a low law enforcement present, and why they couldn't have disrupted this plot despite the huge surveillance capacity of the national security state.
Yeah, so thank God. Thanks, lady. You really made the case. All right, what do we got next? By the way, how are we at our likes, Wilson? What are our likes at?
Looks like we're under half.
Guys, everyone who hasn't liked it yet, please do your part. If you don't like the stream, then you're letting the Pod Save America boys win. Did that give us a bump at all?
We're getting there. Looks like it. Oh yeah, just jumped like 100. Nobody wants Pod Save America to win or the Lincoln Project.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, really. I don't think you can like twice. In fact, I think if you like twice, it may unlike. So if you want to like again, get a friend to like it. And you should all be spreading the gospel of useful idiots anyway. Okay.
What are we thinking for the next clip?
I think we should, for the next clip, I think we should show all the ones that we have, because we have quite a lot of time left.
All right, everybody, don't worry. We will have
Don't worry, we're
Stelter.
giving you Stelter. We know, we've listened to the people. They say, give me Stelter. We're giving you Stelter. That's at the very end. In fact, you should, if you want Stelter and you haven't liked it, like it. Oh my God, Pedro the Lion, thank you so much for your generosity. 69.69.
If I can step out of my area for one.
This is the great Larry Summer
second.
on 1 second. This is the great Larry Summer
Banana
on
Republic.
State of the Nation. State of the what is this show called again? State of the Union, right? And this is Dana Bash, the always incredibly expressive Dana Bash. And Larry Summer, as people know, is an economist who helped ruin various countries' economies. Friend of Jeffrey Epstein, former president of Harvard, said women basically are not as good at science as men. So a very esteemed Renaissance man. Okay.
Dana, if I can step out of my area for one second. I think the banana Republicans who are saying that what happened on January 6th was nothing or okay are undermining the basic credibility of our country's institutions. And that in turn feeds through for inflation. Because if you can't trust the country's government, why should you trust its money? So I think it's terribly important that we take the temperature down in Washington, that we recognize behavior that's just out of bounds of reasonable and decency. We give the Fed the room it needs. We bring down the budget deficit. We take down prices directly through prescription drugs. This is a challenge that we can meet if we're prepared to be serious about taking it on.
So I like that he said bring down the price of prescription drugs. I don't like that he's deficit hawking. The deficit doesn't matter. And I'm trying to follow the logic here. So when we don't take the institutions of democracy seriously, then we don't take the institution of money seriously, and that causes inflation.
That's a crazy take. So if we don't obsess constantly about January 6th, then we are not going to be able to fight inflation. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, somehow.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that works.
All right.
But it does somehow.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I love this thing. It's like there's this new genre of like lecturing average Americans for not caring enough about the latest elite fixation. Right now it's January 6th. And before that, it was Russiagate. And by the way, look, they're not equal, but there are some parallels between what Trump did around January 6th with Stop the Steal and all that, and what was done to him. I mean, he won an election, and instead of accepting it, his opponents and the entire media accused him of basically being an illegitimately installed president by Russia via collusion with Vladimir Putin. And there was even an investigation that did threaten his presidency, And so that was a case too. I don't think his opponents accepted his victory because it was so embarrassing to them. And Trump, then when he lost to Biden, he was embarrassed too. And he returned the favor with all the Stop the Steal nonsense. But I think both parties are more similar than they like to admit to.
Yeah, very true. But he got a lot of love on Twitter for that banana Republicans. But
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's a pretty good one.
I have to give him credit there.
Give credit where credit's due. Yeah. He's also predicting a recession, unlike Janet Yellen. That's another clip. We don't have to watch it, but just bookmark that. Yeah. Okay. What do we got next?
So I just want to ask about President Biden. He is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
If the president chooses to run again in 2024, I mean, first of all, I'm focused on winning this majority right now and preserving a majority this year in 2022. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
Yeah, I think we should endorse when we get to it. But I believe that the president has been doing a very good job so far. And, should he run again, I think that I think it's we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
But right now we need to focus on winning a majority instead of a presidential election.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining me.
That was the most expressive I've ever seen Dana Bash when she was like, that's not a yes.
Right. Wow. That was intense, guys.
She can't believe that AOC will not endorse Joe Biden now. Though she did say he was doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. I like that she said, hold on, can we just watch this part again about how he's a vision?
To entertain and examine when the time comes. But I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
Wow. If the president has a vision, we're all willing to entertain that and examine that when the time comes. That kind of makes it sound like he's delusional and having a vision. Maybe has like some kind of fever. It's kind of a mirage, as you see in the desert when you're looking for water and there is none. Maybe that's what she thinks that Biden's doing. Looking for an election.
So she's open to the possibility of a demented president for.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Who has visions.
It's very open-minded. It's very open-minded.
Is, yeah. It is I kind of like how condescending it is in a way. It is kind of like talking. I think she thinks maybe it would be elder abuse to let him run again.
Oh, well, Joe Biden's been condescended to for so long now. I mean, like, remember when finally the vote was certified and he won, and there's that clip of Kamala calling him, and she's like, "You did it, Mr. You did it. You did it.
We did it, Joe."
Speaking to him like he's a kid.
Right.
So he's probably used to that by now.
Yeah. All right, what do we got next?
Appeals to fact versus appeals to feelings. The January 6th Commission's appealing to both. It's presenting new facts, and it's pushing people to feel that U.S. democracy is under assault. Many insiders.
Sorry, I just want to frame this as this is part 3, example 3 of people justifying January 6th. You can tell people are feeling defensive about the importance of these hearings, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's what basically John Dickerson was doing when he was talking about important versus urgent lines, crossing lines, his schmaltzy monologue on that. Then we got Larry Summers doing the whole, it causes inflation if we don't take January 6th seriously. And now we have this urgent plea by from Brian Stelter.
I'd love to see more of this. It'd be cool for now on these news personalities spend, I don't know, like 20 minutes of their show trying to defend to the audience why they just covered the news in the way that they did. They're like, all right, we know you don't like it, but hey, this is where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And this is where, this is why. And like trying to make the case, that would be more participatory than what they currently have. And it's good to put them on the defensive. So I like seeing all these attempts to like, explain to people why they should be caring about January 6th.
I did not read Brian Stelter's book. LP writes, I read a couple chapters and he was like, me and Sean Hannity are tight. Interesting. I got my picture taken with Sean Hannity. I do that with right-wing figures. I got my picture taken with Andrew Breitbart, Herman Cain, RIP, Sean Hannity, and sometimes people who are very bad faith or very stupid use that as proof that I'm a right-winger. Can you imagine me sincerely getting a photo with Sean Hannity?
No, I cannot imagine that.
Okay, thank you.
No,
yeah.
not that guy.
It was at a bar in Cleveland during the RNC. Okay.
Types of people who populate your TV screen all day. They had a gnawing feeling that the presentation on Thursday would not change anything. The implication was that it should sway public opinion, that the fact pattern should convince skeptics to care more about the attack at the Capitol and all of Trump world's dishonorable conduct in the winter of 2020. But this is where the facts come into conflict with feelings. Now, I'm with Jim Sciutto on this one. The CNN anchor was sick of all the chatter about whether any minds would be changed on Thursday night. That's not our job, he wrote. Our job is to report and disseminate the facts. And that's what we do. But it's also a fact that the American media has been so split apart, and that split affects every story we cover. It's like the weather. It has to be factored into everything all the time. Fox News put feelings over facts by refusing to air Thursday's hearing, instead just showing silent video while Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity swore that the event was all just a sham, nothing to see here. Fox ignoring the hearing made its viewers feel good about Fox. It helped them feel they were.
This is where I'm sorry, I have to defend Fox here. Fox didn't ignore the hearing. They just offered their own take on it. They responded to clips and they obviously dismissed it for their own partisan reasons. But it's like, is a news channel obligated to air a hearing that every single other news channel is airing? I mean, why not? Do you have to air Liz Cheney speaking for 40 minutes about how what a grave injustice January 6th was? I mean, I don't think that they're obligated to do that.
You know what?
I'm sure that they were. I'm sure that they said some insane stuff, and I'm sure they had even people defending Trump's "Stop the Steal" thing.
Right.
But are they obligated to air it? I don't think so.
Well, Aaron, I'm sure that they would say, if you're not airing, you're airing.
That's good. They should use that.
Yeah.
They should use that.
We're right not to fret much about 1/6, not to pay much attention. See, look at the banners Fox put on screen. They say the committee is not on a fact-finding mission, even though the lawmakers have found lots of facts. These banners say the hearing was propaganda, and this framing helped Fox viewers feel even more loyalty to Fox. See, the network's stars kept saying the rest of the media was, quote, colluding with Democrats, suggesting Fox was the one being bravely independent. The lower-rated right-wing news channel Newsmax handled the hearing a little bit differently. It did air large parts of the hearing live, but the control room put up pro-Trump banners, and the host put down the proceedings with anti-Democrat talking points. Again, it was all about feelings. The feeling that the other side is worse. Notably, these shows did little to actually defend Trump. In the MAGA media universe, the January 6 hearings are not about Trump. They're not about the plot to steal the election, not about the use of force to upend democracy. In the MAGA media universe, these hearings are about Democrats trying to make Republicans feel bad, feel guilty for 1/6. That's the narrative. Tucker Carlson seems to be taking it especially personally. On Friday night, he still acted shocked that the other major networks televised the hearing, what he called 2 straight hours of unedited campaign propaganda scripted by the Democratic Party. He said, quote, nothing like it has ever happened in this country. He's a smart guy. He knows the State of the Union happens every year, live on Fox and everywhere else. He knows Republicans hold conventions and Democrats hold conventions and they're aired on TV. He knows other hearings have blanketed the airwaves, including Trump's impeachments. But forget those facts, right? He's playing to feelings. But I do think he's onto something with that banner. Nothing like this has ever happened in this nation. A president lying about the election he lost, his allies plotting to steal power, his supporters attacking the Capitol, his base ignoring new information about the plot, his social media platform helping engage in the cover-up. Nothing like this has happened. Tucker's banner was true, but not for the reasons he thought.
Bam. Wow.
Bam.
He nailed him. He got him.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Nailed him.
Yeah. Look, I love how Brian Stelter is pretending as if he is Mr. Facts and not feelings.
Yeah. Not feelings. Maybe it's both. You gotta do both.
Yeah. But again, these are people who, again, it's like, I think actually when they talk about Fox and they talk about Trump, they actually raise some valid points, because in the case of Stop the Steal and Trump, it was insane, right? And so if you're going to dismiss that or defend it, there's a lot to make fun of. But these same people were the ones who pushed an insane conspiracy theory for 3+ years that the president was compromised by Russia and was involved in an extensive blackmail and conspiracy plot, and refused to allow on any dissenting voices who pointed out the countervailing facts, which Brian Stelter loves to pay homage to. So the idea that he's just concerned for the facts, like Jim Sciutto of CNN saying we're just here to report the facts, it's really funny when you look at their actual record on basically every other topic but January 6th. So on January 6th, sure, okay, yes, they're factual. But anything else that goes against their preferred narrative, no. You can find a lot of problems with it.
They're factual curious.
That's right. That's right. They're factual curious.
Yeah, they
That's a great
dabble.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else that we want to make sure people know about before we get onto this call-in? Oh,
Well,
Wilson's
we've talked
coming through.
we've talked a lot about what happened at Jan 6 hearings this week, but I think there's a lot more to come. And here to give us a very exciting teaser of what's to come.
Morning, Congressman Schiff. I want to ask you, did we hear your strongest evidence in this first hearing, or are there new revelations in the upcoming hearings that could offer hard proof that Donald Trump was responsible for what happened on January 6th?
I think you heard a good sampling of what you're going to see in the hearings to come. The evidence is very powerful that Donald Trump began telling this big lie even before the election, that he was saying that any ballots counted after Election Day were going to be inherently suspect. That lie continued after the election and ultimately led to this mob assembling and attacking the Capitol. And I think you heard just a few examples of what those witnesses have said behind closed doors. There's a lot more testimony where that came from. And I think most important is that we're weaving together how each line of effort to overturn the election led to another, and then ultimately culminated in that violent attack on January 6th.
All right. Look, if you're someone who's really hoping that this January 6th hearing turns into something spectacular, a bombshell, Trump gets indicted, they uncover the secret plot, I think it's a bad omen if you have Adam Schiff saying that you're going to be pleased, that he's saying that stuff is on the way, because Adam Schiff is the guy who for years went on shows like this and claimed that he had seen secret evidence of Trump-Russia collusion that, of course, never materialized. So if Adam Schiff is saying that the case is looking good, then I don't know. That's a bad sign if you're hoping that the case results in something concrete.
Right. Very true. By the way, speaking of feelings versus facts, that was Martha Raddatz who we just saw. Now, I don't know if people remember this, but she cried. She
on January 6th?
No, when Trump was elected.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She also said something about how we only see stuff like this in third world countries. She said something really offensive about January. Anyway, of course she did.
Yeah. Also, someone pointed this out, and this is true, a little PSA, maybe a girl, Schiff's lefty primary challenger, has made it through the primary to take on Schiff directly in November. Shout out to Maybe a girl. Get it? Get that name? Maybe a girl. That really is her name.
Yeah. Well, Adam Schiff, there's a lot to challenge him on.
Yeah.
There's a lot to challenge him on.
Oh my gosh. Adam. Yeah.
Katie, before we go, can we shout out our friend Michael R. Jackson, who won the Tony Awards last night. He won Best Writer for Best Musical, and his musical won Best Musical. His musical is called The Strange Loop, and it's a really it's a revolutionary show. It's funny, it's touching, it's really incisive, and he won. He was honored last night at the Tony Awards. So it's so great to see him honored for his work. So shout out to him and congratulations.
Yes, big shout out to Michael R. Jackson. And should we spoil what we're bringing?
Well, he'll be joining us soon on Youthful Idiots, right?
Do we deliver or what? We are bringing you a Pulitzer Prize, Tony Award winning guest. How many other shows can say that? Well, some shows can say that because he has been making the rounds, but he's been making the rounds of like real, like big shows. The Daily Show. Seth, what's his name? Seth
Meyers.
Seth Meyers. Thank you very much. I was going to say Rogan, obviously not. Seth Meyers. And now Useful Idiots. He also was on the Katie Halper show, but that's not the first time I've been prescient with guests. I think actually his coming on to the Katie Halper show is a large part of why he got the Tony. It's called the Katie Halper show bump. And we have a Useful Idiots bump too. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, that is it. And I will interview Kevin Sharp. Well, I will do an interview on Leonard Peltier. Someone's telling me to do that. I will. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. If you have the time now, come join us on Callin. The link is in the description.
Yes. And if you haven't already liked it, make sure you like it. Like this stream. Yeah.
And to get more, go to usefulidiots.substack.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. See you guys at Callin with your questions. And if you don't know what Callin is, there's a link to it in the description. Thanks, Wilson. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Wilson.
Thanks,
Bye,
Todd.
everybody.
Todd has impeccable taste. All right. Bye.